This podcast is brought to you by Chartered Institute of Building, also known as CIOB, the world's largest and most influential professional body for construction management and leadership with around 50,000 members in more than 100 countries. Our members past and present have had a hand in executing many groundbreaking construction projects across the world, from the Houses of Parliament in London and the Sydney Opera House, through to venues for the Beijing and London Olympics. Chartered membership provides you with global recognition of one's abilities, knowledge, and experience in the construction industry, creating more exciting career opportunities. Don't forget to become a CIOB student member for free today. I'm your host Navya Manjunath, podcast support for Tomorrow Leaders Victoria. Joining me is my co-host Monica.
Thank you, Navya. My name is Monica, and I'm the Events and Marketing Lead for Tomorrow's Leaders Victoria. I hold a bachelor's in architecture and a master's in construction management, and I'm currently working as a project manager.
Thanks, Monica. I would like to welcome listeners to Conversations with Construction Connoisseurs, a series which advances construction management education and gives access to that knowledge to young students and professionals so that it can be shared and added to. Listen to our thoughts on leading issues within the industry. Today, we have a very ambitious and result-driven project delivery expert, Mahinoor Shaik. Noor is a project manager at 𝒍𝒊𝒌𝒆 who is driven to add value while becoming an integral link to the realization of Tier 1 and international mega projects. Noor has worked on international projects from inception to practical completion, demonstrating her commitment to excellence in project delivery while maintaining quality, safety, and financial outcomes. Noor left her comfort of her second home, Dubai, and made the change to enter the unknown, that of a calculated risk taken in pursuit of better education and stability for her children by moving all the way to Sydney. In this episode, we'll talk about career resilience, transitioning, challenges, diversity, and inclusion in the construction industry through Noor's experience. We are beyond excited to welcome you to the Conversation with Construction Connoisseurs. Noor, could you please introduce yourself for our audience?
Thank you, Navya. I think you said it all my introduction. Regardless, as you said, I am a design and construction project management professional based on experience and based on qualifications. I'm an architect, so I did my bachelor's in architecture in India. And my past around 16 years experience has been in Dubai on 3 mega projects. These are all like really huge projects, big budget. So that's why it's 3, and they have been like between 5 to 6 years I've been on each of these projects. And also I had the opportunity to work on different aspects of a project with different stakeholders. So if you can see my first project, Burj Khalifa, it's with the project managers. And the second project which I did in Dubai is Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi. It's with the main contractor. It's a joint venture between Samsung and 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒕. So I worked with the main contractors on that project. And the third project is a really huge, one of the largest in the Middle East, 732-bed hospital project called as Sheikh Shakbut Medical City. And here I worked with a different stakeholder, back to what I originally started from, which is a consultant. So Stantec were the main consultants on this project, and I worked with Stantec as a senior architect. And as the project progressed, my role evolved into different aspects and different roles. And eventually I left Stantec as a project manager. And of course, the rest of the story is I came here and joined 𝒍𝒊𝒌𝒆 later.
We'll be talking about career resilience and transitioning. With COVID-19, it seems to have catalyzed career moves in the industry. So Noor, how did you enter the industry as a graduate?
Well, as I said, I am a bachelor's in architecture graduate, and thankfully, I didn't really have any challenges. I just finished my graduation. Even while I was in my final year, I just got my entry into a really reputed architectural firm back in India. But I do see students here facing lots of challenges. Lots of students have approached me regarding what should I do? I have an interview. What do you think I should talk? And things like that. I can really see students struggling. But for me, I didn't really have that problem, thankfully. So getting into the industry was quite easy. I did face slight little bit of challenges in Dubai, but my challenges were mainly getting into the Australian market. So till then, I always was lucky enough to get a break.
Would you like to talk about the challenges you faced in the Australian construction market and you were trying to enter?
Yeah, definitely. I think I have a lot to give you input on in this aspect, because till then my career was like I used to get the opportunities. I never really gave interviews till then. It was always like I finished one project and I was called on to the other project. But when I came here, lots of aspects were there. One is local experience. That's one challenge I faced. Even though I worked on international projects with international stakeholders and really experienced people who were selected specifically for those projects. So despite all that experience, I still face challenges here. Unfortunately, COVID came in exactly when I moved into Australia. This whole thing started. So to be fair, yes, all the firms were like wait and watch. So they were not really opening up to hire new people. And added to that, of course, while you already have people who worked in Australia, I think the preference was to go with them rather than somebody who's new into the country. So now I did face that challenge. And also I worked with a company doing estimating for a while until I joined John Stuff. So got it through a reference. But in terms of job, I didn't see a big difference between what I used to work and what I was working here. So the local experience, which is being portrayed as a major thing, I think should not be, one of the main aspects to select a candidate. I think they should look at what they have really worked on and their experience. And it takes, I think, a month or two just to transition into a new market. And that happens with any firm you change in. Like I changed from Turner to Samsung, there was a transition phase. I changed from Samsung to Stantec, there was a transition phase. So it doesn't have to become the main criteria. I think we should go beyond that and see what experience and the candidate has and what they can offer. So I think the employers should slowly open up to that. And I do see that it's changing slowly, but I also see students who have studied in the country, done their masters in the country and face challenges getting into the industry, which should not be the case.
Completely understand that sentiment because it happened to me as well. I worked for about 2.5 years in India as a graduate architect. So my qualification was recognized to some extent, but my experience wasn't, however, because I never had that Australian local experience. And in my opinion, I felt the best way to start, especially when you're an international student, is to enroll for any student program, graduate program, get into some sort of a mentorship, or start by giving back to the community in your university or within the construction industry. So that kind of opens your horizons towards the construction industry, and your giving back nature gets recognized. So
yeah,
I think something very similar.
Yeah, that's what helped me also, I think, because since nobody knew me here, I had to do something so that they know me, which is why I use LinkedIn to, publish articles, show my knowledge, show my experience. Nobody will go and, seek a candidate. You will have to put yourself out there and show that you are indeed capable of delivering all of these. So that cuts a lots of assumptions. So that helped me, I think, in getting some exposure and getting a break in this industry.
Fantastic. And what about, when did you know you wanted to become a project manager? Like, as soon as you got out of university, did you envision yourself becoming a project manager, or did you wanted to work as an architect? How did you get to where you are today?
While I was working in Burj Khalifa with Turner, that's when I realized. Until then, I was a thorough architect, reading Fountainhead and thinking that I will do all these buildings and design them and all of that. But while I was on Burj Khalifa, I realized that project management is something that's coming to me naturally, because I was in my element in there. I also was like under tremendous pressure to perform, because that was the first opportunity given to me as a project manager on this iconic project. So that's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I really accelerated my growth. I joined in as a coordination architect, but I evolved into project manager, as an area project manager. So I realized there that getting everything together, getting things done, driving that whole process of delivering the project is what I'm really good at. And I didn't realize that, but while I was doing it, and later towards the end of the project, everybody, including the contractor, consultants, project managers, client side, everybody told me that I really got everything together and did a wonderful job. And that's when I realized that I didn't really put in lots of effort, didn't try to, add additional skills, learn, upskill anything, but I could deliver it. So that's when I realized that maybe this is what I should continue with. And though I didn't consciously make any move towards being a project manager, it just happened to me, and I eventually transitioned into project manager.
Were you able to balance work and personal life at the same time? Were you raising kids at that point?
Yeah, this was a real big challenge for me. I have a son and a daughter, and when I was in Burj Khalifa, they were very young. Thankfully, I had my mother, and my husband was very supportive. I had a support system with me, because Burj Khalifa, again, once in a lifetime opportunity, you don't want any compromises. So you want to give your best. How would you manage that with a family, kids, and everything else? And as a woman, you are, especially Indian culture, you are expected to manage your house. So that's your main priority. And family has always been my priority. So I did have to compromise a lot on my time, because this is not a flexible kind of job, right? Construction professionals are required to be physically present on the site. So my mom really helped me. My mother was there with me, taking care of the kids. Otherwise, I'm not sure I could have managed. So having a support system is required for a woman to really excel in construction. That's what I feel. Because if your home is taken care of, then you can really concentrate on your work. That's one of the challenges I faced, but thankfully I had help.
That's so good to hear that you had a good support system. A lot of the international students these days, they come alone and they try to make a living out of themselves. They're constantly working and they're trying to bag a big role in the industry. So I know it can be very challenging, especially when you're away from your family. And I'm really glad you had that support system. And now it sheds the importance of work and family life, how you can balance both. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a constant struggle, and we need to find some intermediate way to, because if you want to give your best in the, as a construction professional, then you do need a support system. That's what I think.
100%.
You have to take care of the other part.
Yep.
Moving on to third part of our conversation with construction connoisseurs, we are going to be talking about industry insights and moving to Australia. So Noor, what is your favorite sector to work in and why?
Well, I think I'm drawn to interiors a lot. And when I worked in Burj Khalifa also, it was predominantly fit out, which was a scope. And high-end interiors is something I'm extremely drawn to. But while I was working on SSMC, I really liked working in the healthcare sector because it was intellectually very challenging. Growth-wise, I really got to add on to my knowledge, not just because interiors at one point, it's like, okay, you have different finishes, different spaces, fine, but functional aspects of that space, hospitals are the most challenging projects. So intellectually, I grew a lot on that project, and I really liked working in health sector also. So to summarize, I would say residential interiors and healthcare sector, these are my favorites.
Awesome. Thank you, Noor. So what was the most challenging project you ever worked on?
Well, like I said, I only worked on 3 projects, but huge and mega projects. And every time I moved from one project to the other, it was a different stakeholder and different kind of project and different responsibilities. So I did have challenges every time I changed my project, and I had to adapt to that change, adapt to the new requirements of that project. So to start with, on Burj Khalifa, I was actually an architect doing designs. And I got hired as a coordination architect, and then I had to perform as a project manager. And the project that I was given, it involved so many different stakeholders because what I was managing there was the observatory on level 124, which is now called as at the top. So this had completely different requirements. I had to deal with the AV consultants, media scores, visuals, which you don't normally get to work on as a regular project manager or architect. So exhibit spaces, mainly I got to look at the different elements. So to manage it, I need to understand that, right? So I had to put in lots of time and efforts into understanding things because I was basically an architect. I can't do things without understanding on why I'm doing it. So I try to understand that. So in terms of, giving my time and learning at the same time, it was the whole 5 years. It's like I can say that all of those 5 years were learning and performing. So that way it was very challenging. Different stakeholders, people, some consultants were overseas, getting them together, getting them really involved into the project. So all these things were definitely a challenge. And again, project management was new. So after this, I moved into main contracting, which is like you are driving the project from a different angle when you're in project management. When you are in as a main contractor, you are on the other side of the table. So you're dealing with the subcons and you're dealing with the suppliers, you're dealing with the manufacturers. So you're dealing with a completely different set. While you're in project management, you're actually not getting into the details, but driving it. So the main contractor, again, was a different set of challenges. Again, getting into healthcare sector. That was like Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi. Again, a really high-profile project with very high standards. So, and also I was assigned front of house high-end interior spaces. I was assigned the presidential suites, which is the royal floor in the building. Then I was assigned acute care patient tower, which is a clinical one. So that you have to learn that. I didn't have the healthcare sector experience. So to learn that and then perform. So again, another learning curve. It's a change to what I was previously doing. So again, that's a new challenge in terms of the stakeholders you're managing, in terms of the areas you're dealing with, So again, intellectually very challenging, and time-wise also, because contracting, they ask for more time commitment than the project managers. You're working 6 days a week, they're working long hours. So managing the family was a challenge. So, and the people you're working with is different. You are actually on the ground. I used to visit the factories a lot then to get the manufacture, to make sure things are going in time. I was into the modular construction, which is, I think, called 𝒕f𝒂. It's called 𝒕f𝒂 here. So that was a new concept then, modular construction, because we had pods in the building. So again, that was something new. That was like literally getting into the factory and making sure things are getting done. So that was a challenge there. The time again, the amount of time you need to do, you need to put into the project. After that, I moved in with Stantec as a supervision consultant. So you're changing the role completely to you're taking the design responsibility here. So I was like, it's been so many years since I've gotten into design and really giving design solutions and solving the constructability issues on site. That's a big responsibility. So, but I thought, okay, I am an architect, so let me just get on to that part of it. It's not going to be a big deal. So I took up that, and initial few months really learning that project. So I really put in lots of efforts in understanding the project, because it was so huge. It's like 732 bed, covering almost all the departments in the hospital. So again, into healthcare, but handling a completely different aspect, a different stakeholder, which is the supervision consultant, looking into the design changes, giving design solutions, managing design changes, approving materials. You have to make sure everything complies, because that's your responsibility as a design consultant. So it's again a different set of challenges. But if you ask me which roles did I enjoy the most, that's the ones with Turner as a project manager and with Stantec as a design management professional. Moving into the project management, of course, eventually. But I really enjoyed these two roles more than being with the main contractor.
We see that you've taken the career path from an architectural degree and having a diverse professional background in healthcare sector, plus high-rise, exhibition, retail, and residential spaces. We also see that you worked for a select number of projects due to your involvement from conception up through till the completion stage, and that's a very long life cycle. So, Noor, could you walk us through the various stages of your favorite project you were part of?
All three projects are actually very dear to me. I really enjoyed working on my previous project, and I worked on it for almost like 6.5 to 7 years. So lots of, if it's about stages, I will take that as an example. Project delivery is my favorite mainly, because I don't enjoy paperwork as much. So the previous stages of the projects is more paperwork. So project initiation and that whole process of finalizing the design up to the design delivery, and then it comes into the project delivery, where you're actually seeing the project. You get to see how it evolves and how it's eventually built, and you get to see the real project. So that's my favorite part. Even in project delivery, you have so many stages, wherein you start with engineering, shop drawing process, material selections, finalizing the materials, and then you get into the procurement, looking at the long leads. Again, all of this happens while you are looking at the program and making sure things are being done as per the program. And then there's other aspects of design changes, which again are a part of the project delivery stage, not the design delivery stage. So I'll quickly touch on the previous stages, which is a project initiation. You get a project brief, You then try to refine that and see what the client really wants. So you establish a brief, and then you look out for consultants who can deliver this design for you based on the client's requirement. So once the consultant is on board, then you look at all the other specialist consultants that you will need to finalize this design as a whole. So you have the services consultants, you have the facade consultants, you have the main design consultants. So you get all these guys together. Sometimes, like on big projects, where I was working with Stantec, we were the main consultants, and we used to collaborate with other specialist consultants. But on smaller projects, what I noticed was the project managers deal with different consultants, and they are the ones who bring everything together. So the design management responsibility is more on this kind of projects. On the project in which Stantec was there, wherein I worked with Stantec, we had dealt with different supervision consultants. So we brought together the whole design, acoustics, and different aspects of the building. So you get everything together and then finalize the issue for construction drawing. So that's the design delivery that happens. Then you get into the tender to get the contractors on board based on the issue for tender drawings. So the contractor comes in, gives you a price, you do your tender evaluation, look at different aspects, price, non-price aspects of the proposal, and then you finalize the contractor who is best suited for the project. So once the contractor is on board, that's when the project delivery part of it starts. And again, the different stages, which is first the contractor looks at it, reviews the project, and then he advises you on the long lead items, and he advises you on the challenges that could be there. Then we establish the milestones, major milestones, and then we establish the different periods for engineering, material orders, procurement, which is all of that gets into procurement. And then you get into the installation part of it. You appoint subcontractors along the way. Sometimes you need some subcontractors early on, sometimes like people like signage and artwork and this kind of contractors, they come in the later stage of the project. So we go through this whole process. We get the shop drawings approved based on the design issued and the authority requirements and the design compliance based on the standards which each country follows. Like for us, we had international standards. Here it's Australian standards. So whatever standard the country is following. So we try to finalize things based on that and get it to a level where they can go into the manufacturing stage. And meanwhile, the spaces are taking shape on site based on the typical details and everything. So that's the part of the main contractor. The specialist contractors come in, giving each area, the detailing that's required. Like, for example, in hospitals, you have the medical, the contractors who deliver all the medical equipment and that part of the building. You have the finishes contractors, you have the doors, and you have the fire, the ones who do the firewalls. That's all part of the drywall. So you have different based on the scale of the project. You have different contractors involved. So all of that gets that's the installation part of it. Then once things are done, you get into the inspections. This goes on through the project. So you get into the stage where consultants are reviewing and approving stuff. All through the project, constructability issues are always there. So we keep improvising on that. As the project evolves, you might have lots of design changes requested. You might have some additional scopes requested based on the client requirements if they change. So all these things are managed through the project. And then eventually you have a finished space, which again is reviewed by the authorities to approve for compliance. Then you have the testing and commissioning going on, and in parallel you have the handing over and the closeout process, operations and maintenance manuals, and snagging, and all of that goes on. And in parallel, you have the other contractual aspects of the project which are going on, which is about claims and all of that. So yes, so this is the whole process, and it's just a overview. There are lots of aspects to it, but I'm just trying to touch on everything and move on because we have limited time.
But that was very insightful, yet quite detailed actually response to my question. But thank you so much, Noor. Can we just jump on to the next question about the role design management? Now, you told us that you did work a little bit in design management. Can you enlighten us on what does the role design management entail?
Yeah, so for me, okay, in general, design manager is the one who drives this whole process of taking the project brief and converting into a set of drawings. That whole design process is driven by the design manager. So the design manager has to take into consideration the compliance issues, authority requirements, and the budget of the project, program of the project. So all these things need certain level of process orientation and control to get the outcome that we want within the time and the budget required. So that's where the design manager role comes in. It's a very important role to regulate that requirement that the client wants. So design managers play a role both in the project initial stages of the project and also in the project delivery. So initial stages is mainly about getting the design finalized, like I said before, the issue for tender drawings and the issue for construction drawings, getting it to that stage and that whole process while keeping in mind the time and cost of the project and the client requirements and the standards, design standards and compliances and authority requirements and all of these aspects and the approvals. So once that stage is done, then the design manager's role is mainly managing that design and ensuring that it's being delivered to the it is complying with the design drawings. And again, like I mentioned before, the design changes, all of these aspects are managed by the design manager. And also, like, if as the project evolves in bigger projects especially, there will be new requirements coming in, which are again taken by the design manager. He looks at the budget and he looks to see whether we can accommodate this, or is it going over the budget, or is it going to be a completely new set of requirements in terms of time and cost. Will it add to the project timeline, or will it be an extension of time? And all these aspects will be looked at by the design manager in terms of design itself. So will this design be suitable to be taken in at this time, and what is the impact that this will create? So that the design manager looks at through the project delivery stage.
If I were to ask you one question, let's say you maintain a lessons learned register for every project that you worked on, what would they be?
Well, I'll just tell you where I thought things should have been a bit different. So much better to have control over the design in the initial stages to make sure it's a coherent and fully coordinated design than to introduce things later. So if we could get that coordinated design in the beginning itself, it makes our life way easier as a project delivery experts on projects. The other thing was make sure your contracts cover everything rather than later bringing up new things, and that it becomes very difficult. Then there's additional cost involved and lots of new challenges come up. So while we are making the contract itself, if we could deal with all those contract departures, if we could deal with different conditions or different challenges which we may face and bring those into the discussion and agree on things before while making the contract, it's way easier to implement things later. So that's one aspect in the contract stage, and the design coordination to make sure it is all fully coordinated when you are doing the design delivery itself, rather than getting into the project delivery stage. Because when you go into the project delivery, it becomes a variation. So variations are again difficult to deal with, And the other thing is, while I was working on all these international projects, because most of the consultants were international, they were in US or they were in different parts of the world, they specified those materials which are local to them. And while we are delivering the projects in here in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and so I always felt that there were so many materials that we could have used from the local market, and it would have been more easier in terms of procuring them, in terms of having the spares. Like once the project finishes, we need, say for example, there are some damages. We do allow for some spares in the project, but then that's limited. Sometimes the selection range is finished. I mean, they are no more in production. So better go for local materials if we can, if they are equivalent to the other materials. And the other thing was, I always found it very useful. I learned this in Burj Khalifa while I was working with Turner, to maintain a design change register. Every time a request for information comes, I used to just feed it into an Excel and have the time and cost impact and the site condition and all of that information. So sometimes we get savings also. So in Stantec, we had a really good register wherein we used to maintain a savings register. So if there is some change required due to, sometimes you can improve things. There is a possibility and room to improve. And if that comes with a minimal cost, I think we could absorb that, because we have a savings register wherein we can go and check and see, okay, it's not adding to the overall project cost. So if we have our own registers within our team to maintain this, that really makes our life easy while doing, while managing changes or new things that come up into the project. So that's one thing. And also, while doing the design, we have to keep in mind the user experience rather than what we want. User experience is very important. We need to keep that in mind while doing the design. Otherwise, when the operator comes on board, they might have their own issues, and they might have their own concerns. So it's good to get them on board before and look at the user experience aspect while doing the designs.
Great. So to what extent do you see chartership of a professional association such as CIOB playing their part in one's career opportunities when you compare Middle Eastern and Australasian context, for example, like MCIOB, which is a chartered membership?
I think it plays a very important role, especially because if you look at me, when I came here, I just didn't know anybody. So if I had a support of some membership wherein I could actually have somebody to talk to and they could give me some direction, even if it's a mindset change, even if it's something that I didn't know and they could enlighten me on that, somebody to talk to and give you some direction. Everybody needs that, especially students. Once they're out, they're looking out on their own, and if they have a membership, it really helps them to get that break or at least get the right approach. So I think it's very important to get into memberships, especially in your initial stages of career at least, and also to keep yourself updated about things happening. That's a great way to stay connected with all the other industry professionals also.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Noor. Fantastic response to all the questions.
Thank you very much, Noor, for bringing your energy and insights to this episode. It's been a delight to chat with like-minded women professionals and leaders like you. As a sign-off, your contribution to the industry.
I wish we could keep the conversations going outside the production. Before we call it a wrap, Noor, could you please share your favorite motto or a quote that defines your attitude to getting where you are today?
What helped me helped me through all the challenges, be it in Dubai or be it in Sydney, is keep going. Keep going, don't give up. You can slow down, you can take a break, but don't give up, and just keep going. And if you need help, seek it. Nobody will come looking for you, but you can ask for help, and there are people, if not many, few at least are there who will help you. So just keep going, have the hope and keep faith. That's what helped me, because when I came here, I won't say it was all nice. I struggled a lot. Sometimes I just binge watched Netflix and just kept eating sweets. There were those phases also. Then while doing that, I was like, okay, I'm not going to get a job doing this. So that was my break. I just again bounced back, and again I strategized, re-strategized, thought of different ways, and again changed my approach and kept going. I mean, I didn't stop. I didn't say, okay, I'm done, I think I'll go back, because that was not the way. I don't want to look back. I want to keep looking ahead. So I think that's my motto, and that's what I do. Slow down, but I don't give up.
Fantastic, Noor. I'm sure your words are going to resonate with thousands of international students, graduates who are trying to break their eyes into the industry. We just want to thank you from my end once again for being part of this podcast. It's been super insightful. I hope you enjoyed the interview as well, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Monica and Navya, and thanks. I'm glad that I could be of some help, and really happy to give or help anybody who needs to connect and at least have a conversation. I'm glad to do that. Thanks for the opportunity. At least I get to share my thoughts. So thank you very much.